Jim Bob's had a lot of success in this league. Obviously he started in the league, being around Peyton Manning for a while, and then he had success with Stafford and, at Detroit, and then, obviously this previous year with Lawrence and Jacksonville. So his expertise with the quarterback, the way he sees the game, the preparation he puts into it. I got to spend a year with him in 2021 at Philly and really get to know him as a person, see how he saw the game. That's where we created that relationship. And I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to do a phenomenal job for us.
Was that a hire you had in mind when you took the job, or was that a process you played out?
Yeah, obviously there's a process. You always have guys in mind as you're going through it. You have your list of guys, and, certain guys you try to get. But obviously you got to go through the interview process. You got to vet guys. You got to do everything you can, turn over every rock to, get the best staff possible.
With Gus Bradley staying on, does that mean that most of the defensive guys are going to stay on? Obviously Ron and Richard have been with him a long time.
Yeah, I've had a ton of respect for Gus. I spent 4 years with him, just the person he is, the leader he is. Nothing but phenomenal things to say about Gus. I'm very fortunate to have him still in the building, and then obviously the rest of the staff that's in place, and we'll say the full staff when it comes out here soon.
As far as putting the staff together, Shane, what understanding did you have with Nick about not bringing guys together?
Yeah, obviously, coaches are like players, right? You're under contract, so some guys you're not going to be able to get, and I respect that. Nick, has a responsibility to keep good coaching in that building, and that's what he did.
How was Bob and Cam? How important was their ability to develop young quarterbacks if that's the route you go?
Yeah, if we do go that route, obviously we're still going through that process. We're going to be very detailed in that process on which route we go. But again, those guys have, familiarity with the quarterbacks. They got young, their energy, they got enthusiasm. They see the game well. They're bright, young offensive minds that can adapt. I think this game's always changing. I think you have to have a growth mindset. You got to stay one step ahead of the competition, and whatever that is, finding new ideas, new drills, whatever it is, to keep evolving the game and the quarterback play as it continues to rise in this league. As long as it's legal, I think you keep doing it until they take it out. Obviously it was a good play for us. I think we ran it 41 times last year, had a lot of success doing it, and obviously our offensive line had a big part to do with it, and Jalen too, but we'll see where that goes.
In a busy 2 weeks, what have you leaned on to kind of keep things moving forward with so much going on?
Yeah, I think obviously, when you prepare to be a head football coach, obviously you have your first couple days, written out on how you need it to look, and you got your checklist and going through, and obviously putting together the staff is first and foremost, and still working through that. Got a few more spots to fill. That's first and foremost, and then once you get that done, then it's on to the draft. Then it's on to these players, obviously reaching out to the players, connecting with these players just to get to know them a little bit. Obviously, I've met a few guys that have been in the building, and then a lot of guys that are off, in the off season, just connecting with them via phone.
Obviously, you played, close game against the Colts this year. What was your initial, impression during that game?
You know what? Tough, physical, fast defensively. Like I said, I got a ton of respect for Gus and what he does defensively, and they played us tough. And a lot of respect on how they played. They were detailed. They were fundamentally sound, and they did a heck of a job against us.
You have another team within your division that's also in need of a quarterback. Does that affect your draft coordinator?
We're going to have all those conversations, going through in the next couple weeks.
How do you evaluate a young quarterback when it comes to what they are now and what they could be at this point?
That's a great question. I think you got to see the future. Sometimes that's probably one of the hardest jobs is predict the future of these young guys. But what can they be? What their capabilities are? I think all these guys in this draft have talent. And then how do you elevate their talent, as coaches and putting them in position to succeed? But that's a great question. Again, as coaches, we got to do a hell of a job of evaluating that and seeing what they could be.
You've been busy with the staff, but have you had time to look at the personnel and get to know it a little bit better, specifically on offense?
Briefly, yes, just very briefly. Again, right now I'm just finishing out the staff right now, and once that gets finalized, I'm going to be all ball.
Shane, you mentioned gut feel, your opening presser, that's something that you'll lean on. Where is that balance with analytics?
Again, I'm going to take analytics into the equation most definitely. Obviously, I know there's a chart. I'm going to listen to the chart. But, again, it depends on how the game's going. The flow of the game dictates like that. If it's a go-go situation but we're up 2 scores and you got a chance to go up 3 and kick a field goal, I'm probably going to take points there. Just situations like that, and we'll go from there.
Do you prefer a collaborative effort or like a run game coordinator, pass game coordinator? How did you view that when you had
Yeah, I think it just depends on what you need from a staff to staff, offense, defense right now. So, I mean, if that ever came into play and we needed to use those titles, we could use those titles.
What did you learn in Philadelphia that you can bring into the
You know what? There's a lot of good things to say about Philadelphia. I mean, the organization was phenomenal, first-class organization, the way they ran the operations. And then again, just the way the camaraderie within the staff and the team and the players on how we built that culture there with Nick leading the charge, I thought was phenomenal. And when you get the buy-in from everybody, that's when teams can become special. But you got to do a hell of a job of staying consistent with your message every single day and just doubling down on that stuff.
Shane, you went through a process like this a couple of years ago, drafting a quarterback, came away with a pretty good one, Justin Herbert. What did you learn from that experience about finding that kind of special player and making him better?
That's a great question. I mean, that was the COVID year, and I remember we had to do his interview over via Zoom, and that was the exposure. I think the COVID thing hit right after his pro day. We were going to do a private with him, I believe, and then the COVID thing hit, and that was done. So then it was just via Zoom and off the tape. But what I took away from that is that this is a guy that loves football and was a perfectionist and wanted to be right. And he did a hell of a job in that interview process, gave him some information to study. He studied it, he nailed it, and then we went to his tape and just how he talked about the game and his preparation throughout the week and what he went through Sunday through Friday to get ready for his games in college football, and just the vetting process of talking to so many different people and finding about what his mental makeup was. Because a lot of these guys are going to be talented. They're going to be able to throw it, they're going to be able to run, they're going to be able to make plays, but what's that edge? What's that edge that separates them?
Is there much advantage to coming in and potentially being able to draft a quarterback and sort of adjust your scheme to that guy who's going to be there for a long time versus having a pre-existing scheme and bringing maybe a veteran and adjust and so forth?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, again, whoever that guy is back there throwing it, you got to adjust to him. You got to build the offense around the quarterback first and foremost. You can't be stuck in your ways of, hey, this is the system we run or whatever it is. Like, you got to be able to adapt to that guy. And not only that guy, it's all the players around him, the receivers, the tight ends, put those guys in position to make plays. What does this receiver run well? What does this tight end do well? What does these backs do well? The offensive line. And I think it's the same thing on defense. Like, you got to put these guys into position to maximize their talents so they can shine on Sunday.
Do you have a type? Do you have traits that you look for? I mean, you've worked with a bunch of different guys who do different things well. Are there certain things that make the position a little bit easier?
Well, I think the physical traits, yeah. I mean, obviously, you got to be able to throw it and cut it through the wind and all those things. But again, the accuracy is one of the biggest things. Like, I think when it's 3rd and 8 and you got to have it, like, you got to be able to stand in the pocket and deliver a strike with the guy coming down, barreling down your chest. I think that says a lot about a guy's toughness. I look for that on tape. Obviously, the vetting process of it. But the physical traits, obviously, guys come in different shapes and sizes. We've seen Hall of Famers that are 6 foot. We've seen Hall of Famers that are 6'5". Like, again, it's that it factor, right? Because everyone's going to have some talent. You got to find and dig deep. No, I mean, no. We've seen it done. Drew Brees is a great example. He's phenomenal.
Can you change accuracy?
I think you can. Yes, I think you can. I think you can help accuracy. I definitely do with mechanics. And I think part of it, too, is the scheme you put them in. You know what I mean? Don't make them think too much sometimes and simplify the offense to build it around the quarterback.
Shane, with so much work that goes into it, you talk about trades and physical. Why still will 40% of these top 10 draft picks, quarterbacks, not make it?
That's a good question. I think part of it is, I think it's the obsession. Some of these guys, like, you got to love it. You got to be obsessed with it. You got to be first one in, last one to leave. Like these guys in Philly know. I mean, Jalen was in there at freaking 6 o'clock. He'd be in there till 9:30. And I'm like, that's what it looks like. Like, you want to play in this league for a long time and be successful, like, you got to have that mindset every single day that I'm going to give it everything I got and be the best I can.
Shane, talk about having a checklist when you get the job. 2 weeks in, only so many hours in the day. Do you like what you've done so far and the progress you've made checking off that?
Yeah, I do. I feel good about where I'm at right now with the progress. Again, still some things to get, cleaned up. And, obviously got to get into this draft, start watching more of these guys, all positions. But feel really good where it's all at. And then the next process is obviously, getting into phase 1 and phase 2 with the OTAs and phase 3. And obviously we get the extra week with the mini camp there. So putting that schedule together here soon, shortly. Tanny, phenomenal. I got a ton of respect for Tanny. Obviously played in the league for 9 years, sees the game really well, sharp, very, very detailed. Just, he gets it. You know what I mean? Those conversations that I've had with him over the past 2 years. The way he sees the game, talks about the game, clear, concise. There's no gray area with him. Obviously, the game might be played. There might be some gray, but the way he teaches it is second to none. Again, I think when you're evaluating guys, especially when you're going through the process, is the vetting of guys. You got to find out. You got to ask every single person that knows this guy, that's been around this guy, what's he like, what makes him tick, what's his office hours, how does he study tape. I mean, all those little details. And then as coaches, you got to have a detailed plan when you go and meet with these guys, whether it's here at the Combine or they come in for the top 30 visit of, hey, here's the plan. Here's how we're going to find these things out.
Okay, last one here.
What's that? That's Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, CDA National. It's a club up there in Coeur d'Alene. I went up to it this summer. My buddy's dad and him are building this new club. So if anyone's interested, it's a great place.
Colts local media over here. All right.
Yeah.